I was originally just going to do an interview on the article Universities Work to Purge Male Students of Their Toxic Masculinity by William Nardi, who's our guest right now. He's a sophomore at Roger Williams University, and he writes for, well, first of all, his own website, the rebelrouser.org, and then the collegefix.org. Welcome back to Steel on Steel. John Leffler here with you. And I need to warn you, if you want to go to the collegefix.org, do that, but remember to put the word "the" in there, because if you type in College Fix, I think it takes you to a porn site. It's one of those bogus domain names that they try to mislead people, so be careful. Okay. Don't say, Martha, did Leffler tell you to go to that site or what? All right, here's the question I have. We're talking about freedom of speech, not just the right of people, say, for example, those people who wanted to protest Donald Trump's election as president, which there were a number of protests around the country in Oakland, notably one that started at the University of Texas in Austin and went from the college campus down to the state capitol there. That's their right, the right to peaceably assemble. But I have a different question. The question is involving the right of the people who disagree with them to also voice their opinions, and that seems to be what is in jeopardy. And that is really true fascism when you get to that point where there is a litmus test of what you can and can't say. So I have a question now, William. We saw all of this stuff go on campuses. These people will talk about inclusivity, diversity, all of these buzzwords that you've heard, and maintain that they're tolerant and they're fighting intolerance and they're fighting bullying. But they seem to have this flip standard that when their views are challenged, because they believe themselves to be the right, the good, the thing that has been programmed into their minds, they have righteous rage, and then all bets are off at that point. They can do everything that they're telling you you shouldn't do. How do they reconcile all of that, as seen from your viewpoint?
One of the people who works for my company, the Rabble Rouser, sent in a picture earlier today of a person holding a sign that said Trump equals Hitler. This is what people think, and they don't understand what fascism is. They don't understand what Nazism is. They weren't around during World War II, but this is what it's being equivalated to. And I put out another story the other day of a professor at Mount Holyoke College who was saying how dangerous Trump is. There was another one that came out yesterday from another site that I write for about a professor that went on for 20 minutes about why students shouldn't vote for Trump. So they're getting these ideas from the adults. But I'll say that what you mentioned, the hypocrisy of the left, the idea that they are inclusive in every aspect, that they respect diversity. It's of diversity of skin colors. You've heard this a million times, and it's not of diversity of opinions. That's the biggest problem that's going on right here. What's going to happen is that if students are not immediately exposed to conservatism and ideas and honestly just rational thought, our country will be doomed. Now, Donald Trump is the last line of defense that we really have against that. This reaction alone is going to break into their reality a little bit, and for the next 4 years, we may be able to have a little bit more discussion. Either that, or, as I predict in some cases, it's just going to get to the point where it's so completely hostile that we're really going to be faced with a tough situation.
You know, I actually see that coming. It's not here quite yet, but you see the precursor to it in what you're telling is going on campuses. My son alerted me to that last night. That's why I thought I'd call you and we would do this conversation, because the world that colleges are no longer represents the real world. They're not in connect with reality. The whole bit about, well, if you notice, laws don't apply to them, rules don't apply to them, social norms and morals don't apply to them as long as they feel their righteousness has been aggrieved. That's true fascism, by the way.
Well, exactly. No, it's this idea that you can force somebody into an echo chamber. And it's seriously gotten to the point where unless you are sending your children to a conservative college like Hillsdale or Liberty, you really should consider not sending them to college at all. As dangerous as that sounds, college is no longer about learning. It's about being trained to become a liberal activist once you graduate. In every conceivable way, with mandatory diversity classes, social justice components to every courses, every single thing about college is no longer neutral. It's been tainted with undertones, overtones, every single thing that you could possibly imagine. And it hasn't always been like this. It's been slowly building up to the point where when everyone thought Hillary Clinton was going to win last night, they thought they would suddenly have a free pass to to do whatever they wanted for the next 4 years, and it would have been much, much worse. But I even have the president of my university emailing me saying, we're not going to change because Donald Trump became president. Our values of social justice and diversity, he literally sent this email out about 20 minutes ago, that we're not going to change our university because Donald Trump is president. And I'm sitting here and I'm wondering, why am I even here? What am I learning besides liberal theory?
But the interesting part, though, if I were to point this out, I listened to Mrs. Clinton's departure speech, and she's touting the same rhetoric, but the idea is that the right doesn't care that everybody's inclusive. As a matter of fact, I want to see everybody included, and I keep wondering why the African-American community, for example, keeps voting for the same people who have kept them excluded, especially through trashy education, for as long as they have. We share those values too. And that's part of the reason, by the way, why Trump is so popular is because people that are in baby boomers, Gen Xers, they're sick and tired of being told they're racist and responsible for all of the problems of the world. Oh, by the way, give us your money.
And I was thinking about this last night. When I thought that Donald Trump wasn't going to win, I was thinking my parents' generation really failed me. We're going to be faced about everything that's going on right now without any backlash. They would have failed us, and this country would have really gone up in flames. And I'll tell you, I was praying last night when Florida was up for grabs, and my family has some friends in Florida that work with the polls and all that kind of stuff and do campaigning for Trump. I was calling them this morning saying, thank you so much for doing every single thing that you did to help Trump win, because our parents' generation, this was the last thing that they really could do. And even though Donald Trump has won and a lot is going to be fixed because of that, the fight on college campuses is going to be more rough than ever. There's a growing need to really show that the conservatives are taking the higher road. The only way that we're ever going to pull students and liberals out of this is by showing them that even though we believe in freedom, that doesn't mean that we're bad people. That doesn't mean we don't believe in helping people. And we have to do that as they hurl insults, attacks at us, and they bully us in every conceivable way. The mission that conservative youth organizations like Young Americans for Freedom, Young Americans for Liberty, Turning Point USA, the Leadership Institute, Future Female Leaders, the mission that all of these organizations have is so critical right now. We need all of the support that we can get, because it's gotten to the point where if we don't do this, this is our last chance. I have hope. After Donald Trump won last night, this is not the time to sit down. This is the time to really take advantage of the opportunity that we have, because this is the next Reagan revolution. This is the last chance we have before we get taken over, before we even know it, by everyone and all the liberal ideas around us.
Yeah, and I was watching MSNBC trying to see how they were going to recover the narrative. They had a black professor on from Princeton who said, it was white people across the board, women, I don't care who you were, gay, straight, the whole bit that voted for Trump. And he said what this is white America's last stand before this great new multicultural, diverse society comes in. And I sat there looking like, is he on the same planet I'm on? Are we talking about Earth and not Mars or something like that? In other words, they are talking to each other, William, about what I'm thinking. They're not asking me. They're putting words into my mouth, and then we used to call it a straw man argument, and then acting, but they're trying to recover the narrative. They realize they've lost control of the narrative, and that's where you can't let them have it back, because he who controls the terms of the debate usually wins.
Well, exactly. You saw with the Fox News debate versus the CNN, the MSNBC debate, everyone loved that final debate because the moderator threw tough questions, not just at Donald Trump, but at Hillary Clinton, and the people who were there respected him so much for it. That is the kind of media that we need, objective, unbiased media. And you're always going to get CNN, the Clinton News Network, and all these other places just placating to that liberal base. But as you saw, it was almost half and half. Every state could have gone either way, and it was nail-biting to watch that Trump won by a small margin. And honestly, to even look at the popular vote, I think Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, which was very unexpected. It was the other way around that it was supposed to be predicted. So because of that situation, we not only need to change the opinions of the students who are graduating, but we need to change the opinions of the people in their 30s, their 40s around us that have been coming out of it for so long. It's really time to show the entire country and really the world that conservatism is the right way to live, is the only way to live. Otherwise, we're doomed.
All right, William Nardi, I appreciate it. Why don't you give people a website if you'd like them to follow your exploits?
Absolutely. Please check out the rabblerouser.org. I'm going to be having a lot of different pieces about this coming up, and I also write for thecollegefix.com. Very, very good source of information and news that's coming on from these college campuses, so you can check that out as well.
William Nardi, I really appreciate your time on the program, and once again, your website, therabblerouser.org, and then you also write for thecollegefix.org, which reports on freedom of speech and other related issues on college campuses. This is a real core issue for me because the church, per se, has singularly fallen down in its obligation to train its young people in not just Bible knowledge or Bible stories or whatever your particular denomination believes, but also in the worldviews of today and how to counteract the competing worldviews in your kids. And if you don't do that for your kids, your grandkids, for the kids that come into your churches, your youth programs, if you're wasting your time on a lot of nonsense and you don't hit this core issue, everything you're doing is pretty much a waste of time. That's where we're going to see the difference, because these people now, these young millennials who are in colleges that have these really crazy ideas that are not attached to reality, are going to be the jurors, the attorneys, and the politicians of the next generation in less than 10 years. And that's going to be very troublesome because they have no concept of the ideas of freedom and what they're really all about and why the Bill of Rights is the way it is. And that's why that is our job, to teach and teach and teach until we drop. We'll be back. Please like us on Facebook. We have a special page